Some of you will understand this. Some of you will not. Some of you have seen these things in the sky. Others have not. Some who see this presentation are way ahead of me. But the moral of the story is, you cannot fool all of the people all of the time. First, who am I? I am a book illustrator living in New Orleans, Louisiana. Since I was a teenager, one of my hobbies has been photography. I had said that my best capture ever was when I captured lightning hitting the World Trade Center in July of 2000. I could find very few similar photographs. In May of 2011, I revived my hobby in the form of video and trying to capture the almost daily lightning that accompanies afternoon storms that move through the area from the Gulf of Mexico. That worked great for a while, until the storms strangely disappeared. No longer did the storms make their way this far north, so I could record them. One of the last good recordings I made of lightning that year was lightning that was forking horizontally in the sky against a double rainbow. At this point, I began studying radar. Not the radar from the nightly news, but radar directly from Uncle Sam. Instead of the storms moving in, they unexpectedly halted miles away and evaporated. I began recording this anomaly in video while confirming it on radar. Moreover, the local radar showed some very uncharacteristic patterns. I am not a meteorologist, but I know local weather patterns and patterns that should not be showing up on radar. The radial burst patterns that emanated from the same spots and impacted the storm fronts became obvious. Other patterns began to occur. It seemed like dense areas of sky material would pop out of the sky, or maybe even the ground, and would affect the storm's intensity, sometimes in a calming manner, and sometimes in a way that would increase the intensity. Also, thin waves of material or energy began to show itself, moving perpendicularly and also affecting the storms. Have you ever wondered why your radar actually looks like this on a clear day? In June, I used a long-range DSLR to record still shots at a distance of cloud patterns that were not natural. Triangle clouds, square clouds, clouds shaped like submarines, and certain animals began appearing. The spine cloud, the Christmas tree cloud, the crawfish cloud, and the dolphin cloud were some of the names that I used to identify these atypical but recurring types. Patterns and repetition gave it away. While searching for another angle on these phenomena, I was able to download satellite images of the area to look for clues. The thermal images were most interesting. It did not take long before I spotted patterns that should not be there. Cold, black triangles, abnormal cloud patterns, water surface reflections of clouds that did not appear above them in the photo, angular clouds, angular shadows, retouched photos, objects above the water that could not be explained, bluish-green vapors coming from the surface-based spots. Vortexes is the term I first used for the wind currents that ripped apart our storms. I also applied it to the larger constant wind currents that seemed to surround the area on a daily basis, visible by sight and radar. By July, watching sped-up video allowed me to pinpoint the leading edges of the vortexes. Sometimes these leading edges had shadow clouds forming and unforming. Then some shadow clouds were found not to be connected to a visible vortex. These were consistently angular and about the same size. I called these wispy bats, birds, or darts. At this point, I could tell I was seeing aircraft, probably drones of some sort. There were also unexplained shadows in the clouds that were larger, triangle-shaped, and very agile. Cloud busting. It's a term I used until I realized it was a common term online. Again, repetition gave them away. By late July, I knew where to point the camera to capture the repeating patterns and shapes, and where to expect an anomaly. Our storms were intentionally being drained of energy and dissipated on macro and micro levels. But where were they getting their material, their fuel, their medium to complete all of this? Aerosol spraying. On August 1st, I walked outside, looked up, and the only thing in the sky was one of those large white planes streaming across the sky, laying down material that lingered and spread. I had seen these while living in New Jersey in 2003. I had noticed them in New Orleans in 2005. In June, when I started looking up, I had noticed them every day. Was it possible that this was the source? August 8th. This is the day I caught one on camera, clearer and closer than before. At this point, I was setting up video cameras and letting them roll. I could always have a look later while editing. By studying my own video and satellite photographs, I knew that capturing these in the right light would pay off at some point. I could see them within the clouds as shadows, but with hazy edges that sometimes poked out. I could pick out the smaller ones in the video as phantom ships. I set up this camera, turned away for about a minute, turned back, looked up, and saw this black diamond shape just sitting there at maybe no more than 200 yards. I could see it clearer with my eyes than what's in the video. The shape itself, and the shadow it cast onto the thin cloud veil. This random look shot had me standing there telling it in a low voice, "I told you bastards not to get in the wrong light, or I will find you." Infrared. By knowing that certain conditions of light was allowing a way to capture these, I started looking into filters, light waves, and possible ways to see through the intense shiny haze that blankets the sky. Most of my videos taken on bright days I could not watch in the sky at the time because of the risk of retina damage. It's that bad. I then created an infrared light video camera, one that could see in light above 760 nanometers or 950 or 1000. All of the videos and still shots that are red, purple, amber, or even blue are colored solely in a light wave that we cannot perceive. Autumn was a very busy time for me. By the end of November, I had finished illustrating a 9th book. In the meantime, however, I did set out my video cameras and let them film when the time was right. In December, I finally had the time to sort through over 200 hours of video and over 2,000 photographs. I was also able to finally research online some of what I thought I was seeing. Though the questions mounted even more, it began to fall into place bit by bit. Interviews I was listening to described exactly the shapes I was seeing. The reputed technologies made perfect sense. I had outlined the craft in still shots and video for months at this point. The shapes were the same, over and over. Patterns and repetition are what gave them away.